Marsha Blackburn, Tennessee Senator, joining us live here. Senator, there were so many a variety of topics that were discussed. Perhaps you caught some of maybe the highlights. Many are saying not many people are watching these really anymore. It's not even close as far as the nomination here. What are your thoughts here as far as President Trump polling way ahead of these candidates? He's not appearing on stage. Who are these candidates fighting against at this time?
The American people are out here pushing for President Donald Trump. I can tell you that. The number one issue is that porous, open southern border. The number two issue is what is happening with inflation and the cost of living. Number three, crime in the streets and concern over what is happening with Israel and all of these pro-Hamas protests that are taking place across our country. But when it comes to the issues people are looking for Donald Trump to take action on when he becomes president of the United States, item number one, secure that border, stop these known terrorists from coming into our country, stop these people of interest from countries of interest from coming into our country. It is time to put that border wall in place, give our Border Patrol the technology and the manpower they need, and to secure this nation. It is frightening when you hear the FBI director talk about seeing blinking red lights everywhere he looks when it comes to terrorism that could be here on our soil.
That news was made just this week. To your point, the terror threat that the FBI director is monitoring is terrifying, not to mention clearly the crisis at the southern border. You mentioned Israel, of course, the ongoing war. A number of lawmakers have been asked about their perspective on it. We heard from Washington Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal. She was on CNN recently. She was pressed on the treatment of women by Hamas. Let's watch this together.
Morally, I think we cannot say that one war crime deserves another. That is not what international humanitarian law says.
Okay, with respect, I was just asking about the women, and you turned it back to Israel. I'm asking you about Hamas. In fact,
I already answered your question, Dana. I said it's horrific, and I think that rape is horrific, sexual assault is horrific. I think that it happens in war situations. Terrorist organizations like Hamas obviously are using these as tools. However, I think we have to be balanced about bringing in the outrages against Palestinians.
The balance there, that got, of course, as you can imagine, a lot of criticism. She put out a statement attempting to clarify the comments, saying my comment about balance was not about rape and not intended to minimize rape and sexual assault in any way. It was about recognizing the tremendous pain and trauma of so many Israelis, Palestinians, their communities in this terrible war. Senator, is that acceptable? What do you make of the Congresswoman's stance on the matter?
It is not acceptable. And the fact that Hamas carried out an unprovoked attack on October 7th, that there are women and girls that have been raped to death. Their legs have been broken. Their pelvises have been crushed. They have been raped to death, bloodied bodies. When you look at this footage from the GoPro cameras of the Hamas terrorists and how they gleefully carried out what they were doing, how they chose to kill innocent civilians. This was not an army of a country fighting an army of another country. This was a group of terrorists who have as their goal to destroy Israel, to destroy the United States. And I think that the American people should look at this footage and see how barbaric they are and see how they go about killing people intentionally, how they go about killing babies intentionally, how they kill children in their beds, in their homes. This is what terrorists do. And the fact that anyone would try to nuance that, to me, it is revolting.
We're going to bring it back here domestically, if we can, with you. You've been calling for the release of convicted sex trafficker, now deceased Jeffrey Epstein. and his travel logs. You pressed the FBI director, Christopher Wray, on this matter during his testimony in Capitol Hill. He didn't really give you an answer if many were watching. What information would you like to learn from these logs? And perhaps maybe do you have a thought on why they are essentially seemingly protected?
Yes, what we know from the survivors of the Epstein sex trafficking ring is that Jeffrey Epstein had a wide-ranging ring, sex trafficking ring. We know he had the private island. We know he had the plane, the Lolita Express. We need to know how far-reaching this is, who all was involved with him. Those flight logs will give us some insight into that. I thought the FBI director was a little bit too flippant about this, about why they did not follow the leads and the information from the survivors, why they did not go after Epstein for supposedly, or what the survivors have said, is a treasure trove of basically child sexual abuse material. We need to know who the participants were in this process with Epstein. And, you know, you have to realize that women and girls have had their lives crushed and harmed through this. We know that sex trafficking and human trafficking is about $150 billion a year business around the globe. It is time for us to put attention on this. It is modern day slavery. And Jeffrey Epstein seemed to have a rather wide network. And the only person that has been prosecuted through this whole thing is Ghislaine Maxwell, who was responsible for recruiting and grooming these girls and then putting them into Jeffrey Epstein's orbit.
Still a lot of questions remain about the case.
Sure.
Senator
absolutely.
Marsha Blackburn joining us, asking those questions. We appreciate it. Thank you very much for being with us.